A couple things. One, just want to send out condolences to the Jets and Greg Knapp and his family. Obviously they're a rival team in our division, and you want to beat them and do everything you can, but football's still family, and I never had the pleasure to work with him, but talked to several people and knew who he was. He's always been on another team, and what a sad way to start the season. But from the Buffalo Bills, we just want to wish the Knapp family and the Jets all the best, Joe Douglas and Coach Saleh. A couple other announcements. We've got one guy that did not pass his physical, Jerry Hughes, just training over the summer. Nothing major. He's got a calf strain, so he'll start on the NFI non-football injury list, but everyone else cleared and should be ready to roll for us. And then COVID, we got 2 right now. We've had a few cases over the summer. Most of those have been cleared up, but we got 2 over the last couple of days. Ike Butker and Dion Dawkins. Of course, happens at the same position. Murphy's Law here, but those guys will not be out there today. They'll go through the standard procedure protocols, and as we're seeing in this country, vaccinated or unvaccinated, sometimes guys that are vaccinated are also getting these breakthrough cases, and we've had a couple of those, including counting these guys in that mix. So again, we're still dealing with this. We're still learning it. It's been a tough, situation for our country, and it's no different here. Our guys are, we've been trying to educate our guys all through back in May and June, and our guys have done a really good job of listening and trying to educate themselves. And are we 100%? No, but a lot of guys have made that decision. We've had an uptick in guys that have at least got 1 shot, and so we'll continue to educate. At the end of the day, we're not going to force it on any of our players or any of our staff. It's a personal decision, and that's how the organization will handle it going forward. So with that said, I'll open up to questions.
Brandon, can you look, all that being said, you've had a couple players that have been in the news with their views, obviously Feliciano. Inside the building, are you concerned that this could become a divisive situation? These guys have been very outspoken, and I don't know, it just seems like a Jerry Hughes is coming back at him. Like, are you worried about some of this?
Yeah, great question. Sometimes stuff gets out on social media and you don't know how to interpret it. And, I've had a lot of conversations with some of the guys you've mentioned, other guys that you haven't, and it's tough. And guys are trying to educate themselves. They're trying to look at all sides. But I do not think, we've got professionals, and we allow them to express their views. And as long as it's not going to be a distraction, and that's the point that Sean and I have both made, and we don't believe anything is, and I think when we get to out here back on the grass playing football, you'll see where our guys are focused. They're focused on winning.
Brandon, I know this is probably a question for Sean too, but I think in the kind of the Zoom calls in the off season, the overriding kind of feeling and concern beyond just individual health was, would it impact the preparation for the season? So as you begin camp now, is it at a state gauge for me, if you will, how much of an impact the lack of vaccination on your roster has in the overall preparation?
I think to me, it's kind of like last year again, even though we're in a different place here and in this country with the protocols. If you're unvaccinated, the protocols are very similar to last year. If you're vaccinated, they're different, but it's new for us. It's almost like last year was a little bit easier for all clubs because nobody was vaccinated, so everyone masked, everyone did couldn't go in the saunas, steam room, couldn't go in the cafe, or couldn't sit down in the caf. So now it's just trying to make sure we create an equal environment for everybody, even though some guys can't go in the sauna, some guys can't sit down in the cafeteria. But we respect everybody's final decision whether they're going to get vaccinated or not, and we're just going to do the best we can here. I think once we, kind of like last year, it was a big unknown. Were we even going to get through camp, or we can get through a season? There's going to be some bumps in the road, just trying to figure out what we can do with unvaccinated guys versus a vaccinated person, but we'll figure it out. We're all on the same team. I think our unvaccinated guys know we're behind them. We don't make the rules. It's our job to enforce the protocols and protect each other, and that's what we want to do. And listen, just because I'm vaccinated or someone else doesn't mean that I can't get it either. We're finding that out. So everyone's got to be smart, whether you're vaccinated or not, in this building, and then what we do outside this building.
What were your thoughts when you heard, and your feelings when you heard Ron Rivera yesterday talking about how disappointed he is and how frustrated he is with everything?
Yeah, I didn't see his press conference, but I read the quote, so I didn't see the emphasis of it, Josh. But Ron is a good man. He speaks from the heart, and he's real. He doesn't play games. And so, and I know I talked to him this summer, and he was telling me about his travels, and he was a little bit concerned about the variant going on. And you know, he had his bout with cancer last year, and his body's still immunodeficient. So I know he's got some concern there. He wants to be able to be up close and coach these guys, but I think his concern was, you know, just trying to make sure what he could do and make sure he protects himself and his other guys. So, you know, I didn't see his actual press conference, so Josh.
Alan Sills has said that 80% of the players have started the vaccination process. Can you say, are you at that threshold?
For us? Yeah, you know, we're just over 80% that have at least one shot, Mark. Which we've had a lot of guys over the summer that have continued to research it, and that's, you know, that's all we were trying to do is educate them. And some guys in the middle of summer, some guys even yesterday showed up and said, you know what, I think I do want to start that process.
And then Butker and Dawkins, just the protocol. So if you've got a positive, they can't be at the facility.
They cannot be at the facility.
Can
no.
you say are they asymptomatic?
One is and one's not. Yeah.
You said those guys were both vaccinated.
I didn't say that they were. I counted them in there in the group that we've had 4 or 5 over the summer that have had it, and at least 2 of those were vaccinated breakthrough cases.
Just for clarification, the 80%, is that strictly just players, or is that
That's just players. Yeah. Yeah.
On that note, Brandon, we've seen some issues with coaching staffs around the league and how they've had to maneuver. Do you anticipate or have anything on that as far as your coaches, or do you expect everyone to be out there?
No, all our coaches are vaccinated. I believe we only have one staff member that's in Tier 1 or Tier 2 that has a certain, you know, an exemption. They have a legit reason why they couldn't. And so I believe it's just one, Sal, but none of them are coaches. They're all fully vaccinated.
Brady, you built this team with everybody going the same direction, doing everything the same way, same rules. Is it an adjustment for you and Sean when there are 2 sets of rules for players that you have to deal with this year?
Yeah, great question. We don't like that because that can naturally divide anything, whatever team you're trying to build, a business team, a sports team. And so that's probably the bump in the road that I was referring to earlier, is just trying to make sure we can take care of the guys that have chosen to not get vaccinated, as well as we do with those that have. Because listen, everybody has personal reasons for not. I have some family that have chosen not to be vaccinated, and whether I agree or disagree, I have to respect their opinion, and it's no different here in the workplace.
Brandon, can you back to go to football if we could?
Great. Thanks, Sal. I'll give you a 20 when we're done.
All helps. I want to ask you about expectations. You guys made your big jump last year. Obviously, Josh, how do you think, now that we're here finally, how do you feel this team is prepared to deal with you've got big expectations. You're a Super Bowl contender. Are you guys dealing with that the way you hope they are?
Yeah, I think our guys understand. We've stressed it all year and all off season, is what we did last year was really good, but it means nothing. We're 0-0. One of the coaches I heard him talking to a couple players yesterday, talking about reclimbing the mountain, that we don't get to start up here. We're starting at the bottom. Everything we did, all the success we had, it doesn't mean anything. Everybody's 0-0. Everybody's at the start line, and we have to reestablish the things that we did well last year because people have tape. They're going to watch how we did. Some of the things that we did offensively, we put up some really good numbers. Don't think that teams have not studied that and are going to have game plans to stop that. And then what can we do better? What are the things that we struggled with that maybe didn't help us get over the hump, you know, in that AFC Championship game or an earlier game that season? So high expectations, but it starts here. We got to put the work in, and that's the great thing about Sean. He's well-grounded, and he keeps the coaches well-grounded, and these guys all understand that 2021 is a new year, and nothing that we did in 2020 will affect what we do this year.
Hey, Brandon, so much of this team's identity the past few years, though, has been kind of embracing that underdog role, that chip on the shoulder, second opportunity, you know what I'm saying here. How do you piggyback off Sal's question? How do you make that transition between getting out of that mentality and becoming a contender where you're going to get every team's just absolute best shot, you got a target on your back and whatnot?
Well, I think our guys understand that doing something once doesn't make you a great team. Okay, once you're lucky, twice you're good, whatever. If you want to be a consistent contender, you got to back it up. And so we talked here last year about want to win the division so we can host games here. And not only did we get to host one, we hosted two. I would have loved to have been hosting that last game that we lost. But we still have a lot of things that we haven't accomplished that, as good as last year was, we still didn't meet some standards that we want to get to. So, you know, until you win it, in my mind, we're still hunting. And will people be hunting us? Yes, starting with our division. But, again, Marcel, I think our guys understand that, again, what we did last year doesn't mean anything, and let's hit the reset button. Our guys play with a chip. I think it starts with Sean. He does a great job. He coaches with a chip. He walks around the halls with a chip, and our guys feel that.
How have talks been going with Josh's representatives on an extension?
You know, I don't really get into that, Mark. You know, Josh is in a great headspace, and he's ready to roll. And if for some reason we're able to get something done, you know, I'll definitely make sure you guys know. But we're also fine if it doesn't get done this year. And I've said that all along. Josh is in a great headspace. He and I have a great relationship, and he's ready to roll this season, and he's letting his representatives do their job. And like I said, if something happens, great. If it doesn't, we'll focus on the season, and we'll pick it up next year.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of get that response, right? That was kind of the one
Yeah.
you gave me during that Zoom. But you kind of had that wry smile going, too, that would suggest things were going to happen, you know, kind of right there. And, you know, Sean expressed confidence that this thing was going to happen several weeks ago. Can you, you know, characterize anything? I know you don't want to do it through the media.
Yeah.
But give us a sense of where things are at. And is there momentum toward this thing happening before something significant taking place on the field?
I don't think there's momentum. I just, you know, it's hard for me to really gauge it. It's one of those things, you know, there's many deals I can think of. I don't want to go through them where I'm like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then something triggers it. And whether it's the player, whether it's the agent, whether it's something we do on our end that gets somebody's going, and you go, man, we're closer than I thought we were. And so I've laid my head at night, pissed off, no deal's going to happen. And then all of a sudden the next day at dinner I get a phone call from the agent or Jim Overdorf or Kevin saying, hey, they just sent us this. I think there's a chance. And you get back on it and, you know, call the Pagulas and give them a heads up. Hey, I think we can get something done. That's, you know, there's several deals that have been like that. And, again, I couldn't have told you, Matt Milano, that we were going to be able to get Matt. But, you know, Matt was hell-bent on being here, and we were going to do everything we could. And that's how you get deals done. And, you know, none of this has anything to do with Josh, but there's no momentum or anything like that. You know, he and I have had great conversations since we've been back here, and he's focused out here. And, like I said, if something were to get done, we'd be excited. But if not, we both know that we'll work hard next year to get it done.
At the end of last season, you had mentioned that tight end was one of the positions that you would potentially like to upgrade. Nothing significant obviously happened at that spot this offseason. I know that you can't speak about players on other teams, but with the salary cap space that you do have available, do you foresee potentially something happening with a veteran player, perhaps adding to that position before the start of the regular season?
Yeah, good question. You know, I thought our tight ends had a good offseason. I thought Dawson really did a great job. Tommy Sweeney got back in there. We added Hollister, and we got some young players Reggie Gilliam and Quentin Marsh. So I think we have some guys we're excited about, and we want to give them an opportunity. But listen, any position, Jason, that we think we can upgrade, we wanted to create some space so that if an opportunity came to trade or a player at any position, multiple positions, that a veteran out there that, you know what, if it's the right price to add to our team, we'll do it. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to evaluate other rosters this August, and if we see a chance, whether it's tight end or something else, and we think it'll be the right piece on the field in our locker room, I'll definitely look to add them.
Brandon, you have 18, 19, 20 starters probably returning. Is there a position battle that you look at where the competition is at a really high level that you're excited about, maybe 2 or 3 players?
Yeah, I mean, I think both of our lines. Like Sean and I believe in building up front, Matt, and it starts and ends there. And so we've tried to create a lot of competition, a lot of depth. We got some guys back and some new faces on both of those, whether it's through the draft or through free agency. So I think you're going to probably see me the first few days of pads watching those one-on-ones and seeing how those guys go. But we got to have a lot of competition. Our receiver room's got a lot of guys in there with a lot of different skill sets, whether it's size, whether it's quicks, some speed guys, and that return game, too. We lost Andre Roberts. We got some different pieces there, that are going to be in the mix. So I'm excited about this team. I'm excited about camp. I love going away, but this is going to be unique here. A second year. We got great facilities and sleeping in my bed, so that's still good too.
Brandon, from the outside looking in, it looks like maybe you tried intentionally to get a little bit longer and leaner on the defensive line, maybe specifically at F.A. Obata comes in, Greg Rousseau, maybe Basham doesn't fit as well there. Even Mario Addison looked a little bit leaner when we saw him out here in minicamp. Was that by design that you wanted to do that, or was it just the way it worked out?
Sometimes it's the way it works. I mean, I'd love to, Sal, always draft height, weight, speed, prototype size, and you can't coach those things. And, what Rousseau has, and, Basham in his own way, and F.A. in his length. But, like I said, Basham doesn't have that length, but he's got great feet, and he can anchor in there to where he can anchor on an end or inside. And the versatility is probably the piece that I was looking for most, or we were looking for, and I think that's what we have. I talked about the receiver, but to your point at D-line, we've got a lot of different pieces and guys that can play on the edge or can play inside.
And with the expanded roster rules back for this year, first, what did you kind of gather and learn from going through it the first time last year? And second, does it ease the burden at all for you decision makers with a roster as deep as yours appears to be?
Yeah, I mean, last year we had 16 practice squad or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we're hoping that continues and that we can, again, you got to get to select your 53, and then you got to hope that you can get as many of those guys that you want back on your practice squad. So that'll always be when we get down to that final cut. I think we're going to have some tough calls and some guys that we're not going to want to put on the waiver wire and cross our fingers that they get to us and get them back here, because there's also that rule, the game day rule, where you can activate 2 guys off practice squad without exposing them. So those were some neat rules that we got to try out last year, and got a good feel for how that works and how to use them to our advantage, and I think we'll definitely do that again this year, Chris.
One last preseason game, but an extra regular season game. How much have you and Sean talked about the workload heading into the season, and does that change based on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll learn a lot this year, Josh. So I don't want to act like we've got all the answers, but we've definitely talked with our performance team, our sports science, and the medical people of starting with camp, how we're going to get through camp, ramp it up, get ourselves in football shape. Our guys have done a great job of getting in physical shape, but they haven't played football yet. So that'll be Sean and his staff's job now to get them to that point, and we'll use the preseason ramp up plus the games. But yeah, we're going to have to monitor workloads through August and through the season, and because there's still only one bye. So I was kind of hoping they'd throw an extra bye in there to allow us to give these guys another week off, but they chose not to. I think we'll be able to tell you even more after the season what we learned and what worked and what changes we may make next year from what we learned this year.
Brandon,
Some of your third-year guys, Singletary, Knox, Ford, specifically for each, what do you need to see from them this summer for them to turn the corner in your mind?
Yeah, I think all those guys will. Singletary. I thought he had a really good rookie year. I think last year, for whatever reason, he didn't have the same year, but it wasn't all bad either. I think he did some good things. It just I think he expected more of himself, and he's in great shape. He had a really good offseason. Cody. Cody's had a tough injury. The last couple of years, he fought through it the first year. Last year, again, unfortunate, a couple surgeries, but he did. He probably had as good an offseason as you could ask for, dealing with 2 surgeries. That's not easy to also get your strength back. He's in great shape. He's excited. You see a big smile on his face. I saw him in the calf this morning. He's ready to roll, and so he'll come back in. Like every position, though, Joe, these guys are going to have to compete. Zach's coming off his injury at running back, and he'll work his way back, and I think it's going to be a really good competition at running back, and whoever starts will start, but I'm sure it'll be pretty similar. Brian Dable will go with the hot hand. It may be one guy this week and another guy the next week.
Brandon, you've been pretty complimentary over Levi Wallace these last couple of years. How has he gone from somebody who was undrafted to a guy who's played a lot of meaningful snaps for this team?
Yeah, I mean, nothing phases him. And you go back to his story at Alabama. He wasn't a 5-star recruit, anything like that. He just finds a way. He's always in the right spot. His teammates love him. He's just one of those guys. Sean uses this term, and I agree with it, like a glue guy. Just guys are confident. They don't worry about him. Does he a height, weight, speed, and have all the things that some guys have that are drafted high? No. But he knows how to play football. He has great instincts. He has great awareness, and he works on his game. And he's one of those guys. We've continued to bring competition to him, and he doesn't bat an eye. If we'd have drafted a corner in the first round, you wouldn't even known it from Levi. He's just going to come in and he's going to beat me out, and that's his motto. And that's the type of player that we like here, and we were glad to get him back this year.
Brandon, with all the competition and depth that you guys have on the roster, can you afford to have guys like what Andre's been the past couple of years that basically their entire role is just on special teams, or do you need to focus on finding guys that can contribute either offensively and defensively while also filling those special teams roles?
Yeah, John, good question. Special teams is important for us, and I think we've put an emphasis on that. We would have loved to have kept Andre, but the cap going down, it was just we had to pick and choose, and I think he'll do a great job in Houston. But no, we brought Tywan Jones back. I think that's his number one thing is a special teams player, especially a gunner. He's an elite gunner. We have other guys, Matakevich, who we extended this year to add. He did such a great job and has brought a leadership element to our special teams. So we're still always going to put a lot of emphasis on our teams. But, yeah, it's important for those guys that are not frontline starters to play 2, 3, 4 phases for us. And that's what we emphasize. And, Sean and I do meetings with all these guys as they check into physicals. And that's one of the things that we emphasized yesterday to them is, hey, listen, if you do not win that starting job, you better be in Heath Farwell's hip pocket, and you need him telling us how much he needs you on these 2 or 3 phases. That's how you're going to get a jersey on game day.
Let's take 2 more, please.
Brandon, one more on Cody.
Yeah.
During the offseason, you said that you anticipated that he would be one of the best 5 that they had. Do you still hold firm to that after all this offseason business?
Yeah, I think we believe in Cody a lot, and I think when he's been out there, I think he's done really good things. Cody's he doesn't bat an eye. We play him at right tackle his first year. We move him in at guard. We bounced him around last year, whether it's left guard or right guard to start out, and that's not easy for a young player to just move around. He doesn't say a word, and so I think the thing we're going to try to do with Cody is figure out. He'll get work at both guards, but figure out which spot's best for him, and he's going to have to go win it. He's going to have to go show who he is and why we picked him where we did. But I'm very confident in him, and I think once he gets out there and gets his feet under him, I think we'll see the Cody that we drafted.
Brandon, where is Star Lozette at this point? I'm not sure if I'm allowed to be specific in what we saw him do in RTA's minicamp, but is he ready to be fully integrated back into the lineup, or starting him slow, or where is he at?
Yeah, I think we'll get him back in the lineup and get him going. Obviously, Starr's going to have to get his feet underneath him. You don't just sit a year out and come back and everything come back like that. He's going to have to work his way. I think the thing we've told Starr is, listen, don't try to do too much too early. Get out there, get your feet under you, especially when we get back in pads. But he's in great shape. He's worked hard. I see a renewed smile, a renewed energy. You know, Starr's a man of few words. You guys probably know that by now. But he seems excited to be here. We're excited to have him back. He's been an integral part of our success. I can tell you our linebackers are glad to have him back. He does a great job of letting those guys run free. And so I'm sure Ed Oliver will be glad to have him back as well. A few less double teams for him. So I'm excited to see Starr, and I think he's excited to be out here.
And if I can follow up with that, a lot of the talk about the Star's return is centered around the impact on Ed. But you mentioned the linebackers. What do they benefit from having Starr back on the field?
Yeah, I mean, he does a great job of just eating up blockers and keeping guys getting to the second level so that Tremaine and Matt and AJ and these other guys can roam to the ball. And, Tremaine and Matt last year, probably they had some injuries early in the year, but I think it was also, just dealing with not having Starr in there, different pieces, and we had no off season, so we had some new pieces in there, and I think our whole D-line maybe started a little slow, but the second half of the year they really picked it up, and I think year two under Eric Washington, those guys I think you're going to see even more out of that group. Yep, don't leave. I got one more thing. There's a gentleman here that has covered the Buffalo Bills for a long time. It's good to see his face, and he's going to be retiring here real soon from the Buffalo News, and I know Catherine's here to replace him. But, Vic, you've done a great job. Just from afar, I knew who you were, and from Carolina and just being in the league and getting up here and getting to know you. And, he's written books, bestsellers. He's a Hall of Fame selector. My son's listened to him on Sirius XM and told me a couple of things he said. I said, tell me if he ever says anything bad about me. But in all seriousness, great career. I know you're going to continue to do that, but you'll be missed showing up every day here. I know these ladies and gentlemen will miss you. And from the Bills, we just appreciate how you've connected us with our fans even before. And I'm sure I speak for Bill Poling and Marv Levy and all those guys. But from Boyko and his staff and all these people, we just want to say thank you, and I got a little jersey for you here as well. Come on up.
Thanks. Yes, sir. You're finally a first-round pick.
Can I ask him some questions here?
Thank you very much. You're welcome. I appreciate it. Don't have any words. Just thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.